Hey, good evening, everyone. So today we're going to go over a couple dividend increasing stocks in January, December-ish time frame. So 10 stocks, some of which are in the portfolio, some of which are outside of the portfolio. We'll go over a decent amount of them. You can kind of probably already see them up at the top if you're looking at the taskbar. But yeah, let's just give a brief portfolio overview, the intro, and then we'll hop right into the actual dividend increases. So a lot of you guys might be familiar with the portfolio due to erasing some of the declines in the market that we experienced a little bit earlier in the week and the end of last week. We're back over $400,000, which is kind of cool because at one point we were down almost $15,000, maybe even more, in the portfolio. So we've cut back some of those losses. We continue to go up and up. Looking at the portfolio itself, obviously everyone knows the energies, the largest positions that we have in the portfolio, as well as the largest dividend pair in the portfolio, followed by financials and real estate in this orangish, reddish here, respectively, then followed by consumer staples. Everything else here is either industrials, healthcare, cash, which is an ever-growing position as well. Purple here, you can see up to 7% cash, but you also have telecommunications services and a few others that are kind of rounding out the entirety of the position. So $276,000 in the dividend aspect of the portfolio. Monthly income is up to $995 a month, which is pretty cool, almost that $1,000 mark we've been looking for. And a lot of this is obviously due to what we're going to be talking about today, and also a lot of dividend reinvestment that I've been doing with respect to, say, like AT&T, my Verizon stock. Just that alone got me another $10 a year easily in the portfolio, and that's before the dividends are even raised or anything like that. So I think that really helps give an overview of where things are with respect to the portfolio. Let's get into the intro and then we'll hop into the actual video. All right, guys. So for you guys that are invested in Chevron actually increased the dividend by about 8% or so, up to $1.29 per share, which is an increase of about 10 cents or so. So congratulations to you guys. That'll actually be raised and paid in February and March, respectively. So good luck to you guys. I'm not personally a Chevron investor, so we won't be getting into this one a little bit later. But congratulations to you guys. Moving on to BlackRock, I do own BlackRock shares here. So this actually is an increase from about $3.30 to $3.63. So about a 10% increase, which is cool for me because I own six or so shares. So we'll be talking about this one a little bit later, but it ends up being a couple dollars if you think about it that way. It's 33 cents of an increase four times a year, so it's about $1.20 per share. So just thinking about that, it's going to be on the range of $7 to $8 of an increase a year in terms of dividend income we're going to be receiving, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Then hopping over to BP. So BP had a dividend of 61 and a half cents per quarter. It has now been raised 1.5 pennies, I guess we should say, four times a year. So gets us about 6 additional cents a year if you were to round everything all together and annualize it. And that raises the dividend from $2.46 to $2.52 if you were to do the math and annualize that. We will be talking about this because those of you guys that know, I do own BP in the portfolio and I have a decent amount of shares. So it ends up being a pretty nice penny or two once you actually round everything up. Even though it's only about a 6 cent increase annualized, it ends up looking pretty good once you have a couple hundred shares. So we'll talk about that in a second. Then you obviously have 3M, which raised the dividend for its 62nd year. It's a dividend king for those of you guys that do not know that. And the dividend has actually gone up from to $1.47. It was $1.44 beforehand, I believe. So not too large of an increase, but keep in mind that a 2% increase is better than nothing. And 3M, I believe, is currently going through a little bit of a transition as it tries to rejuvenate some of its product lines. So nothing wrong with that. Then going into Cheniere Energy Partners, or ticker symbol CQP. This is another 2% dividend raise here from 62 cents to 63 cents. Now, folks might initially be like, what the heck is going on? But they generally try to raise the dividend every single quarter just as they continue to get operating efficiencies up and they continue to get cash flow and projects online. So that 2% increase just for this quarter, once you actually do it for a couple more quarters, ends up being about a 5, 6, maybe even up to 8% increase for the entirety of the year. So if you look actually last year, it was yielding about 59 cents a quarter. Now we're up 4 cents per quarter on that. So it's about 8% increase year over year if you were to look at it that way. So while it's only a 2% increase quarter over quarter, it might be an 8% when you look at it annualized and you actually continue to raise it by a penny every single quarter. Going into Realty Income Corp, this is another one that shows up rather small. Realty Income Corp tries to raise it about 2 to 3, maybe even up to 4 times a year. So going from 23 cents effectively to 23 cents and a quarter here isn't necessarily too large of a jump. It's about 2%, but keep in mind they might try to do it a couple times a year. And also, this is only a half a penny per month, which isn't that big of a deal. But once you actually include 12 months, it actually ends up being about 6 cents a year that it gets increased. So keeping that in mind, you go from about $2.79 a share every single year comparatively to $2.73, even just with this small little increase. And like I mentioned, they try to do it 2 to 3, if not even 4 times a year, consistently going through and raising over time. So Realty Income Corp, phenomenal company. I remember purchasing back when it was producing about 17 cents or so a share back in 2014, 2015 timeframe. So it's definitely been raising the dividend pretty systematically, and it goes up over time if you just buy and continue to hold. Total is a company I do not own any positions in, but they've kind of rejuvenated their dividend increasing policy. They're aiming to get about 5 or 6% a year. This year, they're basically increasing by about 5% or so, up to €2.68 a share. I personally don't invest in this company, but for those of the guys that do, it looks like it's going to be a pretty good deal. Know that they are trying their best to continue to grow the dividend and continue to change how they invest as a company as they try to lean more towards renewable energies. So that's something I need to get a little bit more involved with and do a little bit more due diligence on. And I'm curious to see how they stack up against peers like BP and Shell, because I think at the moment these two companies, BP and Shell, are the current leaders with respect to transitioning themselves from oil and gas only companies to more energy companies. So we'll talk about that, I guess, in later videos. Progressing onwards to AbbVie, which is my pharmaceutical or healthcare company. It's a pretty modest increase, $1.07 to $1.18. If you annualize that, that ends up being about 11 cents or 44 cents per share. And if you have a decent amount of shares, that adds up pretty quickly. So we'll talk about this one because I do own AbbVie in just a moment here. But then actually going to WP Carey. WP Carey is one of those ones that raises the dividend slowly, but they also raise it quarterly. So that being said, you've seen minor increases every single quarter, but over time this generally adds up to 1 or 2% a year. Can't complain about that, but like I said, rather small increases over time. And then last but not least, we have McCormick, which increased the quarterly dividend back in November timeframe, but this will be actually payable just last week or just a couple weeks ago. And this actually increased it from 57 cents to 62 cents per share every single quarter. Now, I don't have too many shares, which you'll see, of McCormick, but it is an increase nonetheless. And we will totalize all the increases in one single spreadsheet. Now, I may have missed a few of these increases here, so don't get too upset with me. But that being said, we have about 8 or so of these companies that raised their dividend over the past month or maybe 2, and they're in the portfolio. So it's really cool to be able to kind of look at this, put it up against some of the shares. I was lazy with some of these positions. I didn't add every single one of the positions because some of these positions have multiple different are in multiple accounts. So I tried to get the ones with the largest positions here, but I appreciate that I was trying to cut a little bit of time out of the video for your guys' sake. But looking at BlackRock going from $3.30 to 363, it's a 10% increase. I have 6 shares or so that means I get another $8 a year. So, like I said, I mean, even with 6 small shares, you end up getting $8 a year, which is almost, 66 cents every single month that I can take to the bank. It's not a lot, but it adds up. Then you have BP. That was just a penny and a half increase every single quarter, so 6 pennies every single year of an increase. But you multiply that by 236 shares, and that small 2% increase becomes $14 annualized that I am now getting additional compared to what I had in the past. Then you had 3M, once again, a very modest 2% increase here, going from $1.44 to $1.47 per quarter. So an additional 12 or so cents every single year from each individual position and share that you have in 3M. Multiply that by the 66 shares, and you get $7 a year, almost $8 a year of increased income, which is pretty cool. Then you have Cheniere Energy Partners. Like I said, they generally raise it about a penny every single quarter, so about 2%, probably a little bit less. But I have 127 shares, so that being said, ends up being a $5 increase. Realty Income Corp, also a rather small share, but they try to raise it a couple times per year. That 2% increase of 46 shares gets me another $2.78 per year. This one's the big one though. This is an increase of about 11 cents per share per quarter. So you multiply that out, that's 44 cents a year increase. That being said, multiply that $44 or 44 cents by 116 shares, it ends up being about $51 or so in terms of increase in dividends just from one company. Talk about a pretty good deal. And this isn't including some of the positions that are in my share owner services or anything like that, but those are relatively small positions compared to the larger position that I have in AbbVie in my individual brokerage account. You have WP Carry, which is a very minor increase, about 0.2 cents on the quarter. Multiply that out, you get about 0.8 cents every single year increase. Multiply that by the 77 shares or so, it's another 62 cents every single year. So about half a penny increase a month if you look at it that way. Then you have McCormick, increase about $5 or 5 cents per share. Didn't have too many, so 20 cents total for the year increase, but I only have less than a share, so that ends up being 20 cents going down to 13 cents increase just based on the fact that I have 2/3 of a share. 9% increase, not anything to complain about. That being said, just with these small amount of positions here, like I said, I might have missed some positions, and this isn't even, a quarter of the stocks that are in the portfolio. Just from this going in here, let's just kind of look, and we kind of have the 11,000, let's just say $900 a year in terms of dividends that we're kind of expecting. So this 89, almost $90 or so, just from a portion of these companies, and not even being the entirety of the year, because some of these companies raise multiple times a year, increase the income from the portfolio 1%. Now, some of you guys might be like, wow, 1%, it's not a big deal. But like I said, some of these will occur multiple times a year. Some of these will only raise 2% for the year. Like I assume BP and 3M will probably only raise 2% for the year. They don't generally raise multiple times per year. McCormick as well. But companies like Realty Income Corp, Cheniere Energy, those guys kind of raise a couple times a year, and that will drag up this point 0.8, a couple basis points if you kind of look at it that way, as well as the other companies coming in here as well to raise. I mean, like I said, this is 8 or so out of the 50 or so positions that I have in the portfolio. So it's a little bit less than 20%. You can easily end up with a potentially 400 or so dollar a year increase year over year just from the companies raising their dividends. And some of these positions here are rather small. Yes, the BP position is large, 3M is rather large, but a lot of these positions are relatively small comparatively to, say, like my AT&T positions, my Johnson & Johnson, my Main Street Capital positions. And actually, I should have probably looked up Main Street Capital. They're generally pretty good about raising the dividend every month or every quarter or so. So like I said, I might have missed that one, But hope this video finds you guys well. Hope this one gives you a little bit of an education as to how having certain stocks and having just 100 shares of them can even get you a $50 raise for doing nothing. And now that's another $4 a month that I no longer have to work for, which is pretty cool. I mean, you think about it that way, that allows me to get two more coffees every single morning during the month or something like that. So hope that helps out, and hope that gives you guys a different perspective on what dividend investing can do for you. And I'm going to edit this one and send it out, and hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys on the next video. Cheers.